Welcome to the Fret Frontier. This episode continues our lesson series on the baritone ukulele. We're discussing constant bass acoustic blues, and so far we have covered the melody notes we could use on the first two strings to play in key of D blues. So we've gone from the open fret to the 6th fret on the first two strings, accompanying ourselves by using open bass notes to represent our root chord, D, and our 4th chord, G. And it sounded like this. I'll mix them up a little bit. These are our patterns and our theme. In this episode, we're going to add another collection of notes. We're going to explore our 5th fret through our 8th fret. So on our first two strings, our note selections will be starting on the 8th fret. So we'll put our little finger on the 8th fret of the first string. That will be the flat 7 of the scale in our D blues. Okay. Then our first finger on the 5th fret of the first string represents that 5th position in the D scale. Then we'll bring our little finger to the 8th fret of the 2nd string. That represents the 4th degree. Then our second finger on the 6th fret of the 2nd string is our flat 3. Now you notice we've got flat 7, 5, 4, flat 3. In terms of our note names, we've got C, A, G, and F. So there's no D, there's no root. So how would you find a way to use this scale if I wasn't telling you we're in the key of D? Well, your note that you would spot, or your root note, when you see that full pattern there up on the screen there, our root, the D, the 1, is actually the 7th fret of the 3rd string. So if we wanted to know what key we were in, we would use that to spot or place this. So this is a D. If we wanted to play in the key of E, we would start off spotting it, that 3rd finger over here on our 9th fret, and then we've got the notes that we need in the right position. Okay, same thing. Okay, for these purposes, we're not going to play the root, we're not going to play the D, but we do have the root, we do have a D, we have our 4th string playing that out. Okay, so we still are implying, and we can hear that we're in the key of D, even though there's not any D. Let's go ahead and play those notes together. Little finger, 8th fret, 1st string, 1st finger, 5th fret, 1st string, little finger, 8th fret, 2nd string, 2nd finger, 6th fret, 2nd string. Okay? Now we're going to go ahead and bring up our pattern of solid quarter notes using our bass notes and our traditional turnaround that we've been using throughout this series to go ahead and explore our first take on these new notes that we'll be adding to our ability to go ahead and play our acoustic blues up higher on the neck. 1, 2, 3, 4, D. G, D, 2, 3, 4, G, D, or A7, 27. Okay? So even though we don't have a root note that we're playing in our melody, we still sound okay. We're in the key of D, we're playing the appropriate notes, and we're getting that tonality from that fourth string, reminding us always that we're there in that key of D, and everything else surrounding it will sound okay. Now, as we've done in our prior lessons, our next step is to apply our theme. So let's go ahead and do that now. Count to 4. I'll count us in. Let's go ahead and apply our theme. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so we have our next collection of notes. Go ahead and get that up to speed. Use the YouTube controls to slow this down as you're practicing through it till you get comfortable with it. And we've just added on our new collection of notes. And remember now, because you have your notes in a slightly different order, the same notes that we've always been using from the blues scales, it sounds a little bit different than our other applications of this as we've applied all of these. Immediately gives you a refreshed sound as you're moving along your neck on the guitar here, and you're still playing that same rhythm, that same little pattern, applying that theme, getting a lot of leverage, and keeping it fresh as you go along. I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you so much for joining me.